switching gears to the NBA.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. We've had a few days of the in-season tournament now, and aside from the courts, the games have actually been competitive. We've seen some big wins from the Lakers obviously beating the Suns. The Lakers obviously getting another big dub against the Grizzlies. Clippers continuing on with their slide. Minnesota continuing on with their streak, and Anthony Edwards. I mean, problem. He's making his name into coming into the top 10, and we were asked about it, and I can't remember if we talked about it, but nobody picked Anthony Edwards to be the MVP. Yeah, and that's something that we didn't even really think about it, talk about it, consider it, but who's to say he can't be?
I think it's one of them things where most of the time that stuff runs parallel with your team being good. I didn't think Minnesota was going to be good this year. I mean, they done got off to a hot start where they 8-2 or something like that. They only lost 2 games. They top or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I know it's the beginning, but it was one of them things where I didn't pick them to be a good team at all. So even with his dominant performance, I just didn't see it. But let me switch that up real quick.
I'm kind of the same way. I didn't think that their record would be good enough. We all didn't have them in the top.
Really underestimated.
None of us had
their
the top
defense
6
was going to be
or 5, in the conference. But I will temper it like this. So I went back to like last year at this time, and of course in the Eastern Conference it was Celtics, Bucks, and then the rest. And Cleveland actually had a good start last year. Then the rest. But in the West, if you look at the first 10, 13 games, you had Portland up there. You had Utah had only 2-3 losses at this point in time last year. And then, of course, both of those teams didn't make the playoffs. Denver was kind of steady. So, I mean, it's still early. I'm saying that to say, like, it's still early. Like, these teams are, like, the Rockets off to a hot start. They won 6 in a row. Minnesota, which I still think is a good team. I think they'll be there at the end. But, we'll see.
The only thing about Minnesota is, especially that is different from those teams that you mentioned. Obviously, we got Ant better than anybody that was on those teams. I mean, Dame, but whatever. We need to talk about him too, maybe. But we really underestimated their defense because Jaden McDaniels was arguably the best perimeter defender last year. We everybody likes to disrespect Rudy Gobert, but he's clearly an all-time great defensive player. I mean, and he might even win Defensive Player of the Year this year. And then Ant has continued to grow and continue to be a good defender, continue to take those challenges. And then, Mike Conley's always been a good defender throughout his career. Obviously, he's a little older. You got Naz Reid. I mean, it's a good team, Kitty Cat.
It's a.
I don't think it's actually. It's a Kitty Cat.
Especially after what we seen last night.
This what movies is made of. This what movies is made of.
That's exactly what movies is made of. And that's what we're going to get right into that game, staying there. Obviously, we saw a couple days ago Ant and Draymond going back and forth, and Ant kind of shut them up. And then in the in-season tournament, we see Clay and McDaniels start beefing from the jump, from tip-off. And Draymond ends up choking or whatever he was trying to do, choke Rudy Gobert out. And what did you guys think about that? Obviously, we've seen a lot of the conversation. Pat Bev saying that Cat should have choked him out, and he taught him better than that, or whatever. What did you guys think about that?
Man, I don't know if y'all saw one of the shows earlier today. They were trying to explain Chris Broussard off of First Things First. He tried to explain that. That was the only way he could have got him off. Man, that man was choking that man. He was legitimately choking him. He was pulling him that way. Nah, man. He was choking that man.
He locked, Chris. Like, he locked. Like, I can see you going like that and pulling out, but you locked that shit.
He locked you trying to choke. And then Steve Kerr let him go. He still, I'm like, nah. I said in the group chat, I would have choked the shit out of Draymond. I don't care what you talking about. If I get kicked out, well, you choking this, you choking the shit out of him.
That shit crazy. That's crazy.
Man, look, that man about to tap out.
You see, he got suspended 5 games. Breaking news: Draymond got suspended 5 games for that. They say in part because of his history of unsportsmanlike acts. So, and then the other Rudy, Clay, and Jaden all got fined, no suspension. So, wow. Draymond got to chill, man. Like this can't. It's funny because, of course, that was also the news about what Rudy said as far as when Steph is out, Draymond ain't trying to play. So they knew that he was going to try to get ejected. And that shit is facts, man. Like, that shit is facts. Like, you know how Draymond hates playing without Steph. Yeah. I got a proposal for y'all, though, before we move on. Because I think a lot of this came from, it might have been some stuff last year, but a lot of it came from, and we're seeing a little bit more of this season as far as like the back-to-back games, kind of like the series games, similar to like how baseball is. You know what I mean? And the Warriors have a couple of those, a lot of those. So they have Minnesota twice, they got OKC twice, they got the Clippers twice, like back-to-back. How do y'all feel about that? Like series type of, games in the season to kind of like, carry over.
It's cool, to, like, but I mean, most of the time, I mean, we see that a lot, and especially within conference. I mean, it's cool to see because typically a lot of times we do see a split. Of the games, we typically see at least one get on the home floor. Sometimes we see them upset on their home floor and get the away game. It's interesting, definitely, because when you have storylines like how Ant already talked about playing the Warriors in the playoffs and stuff like that, it makes it more interesting. But I mean, at the end of the day, we don't typically get too many fireworks like we did.
That's true. You think 5 games too much for Draymond?
I just bust your ass. Now I'm about to see you again.
Yeah,
I'm saying that shit is good. You talking that shit, but of course they were without Steph. And as far as the actual game, like the Warriors are kind of like they got to figure this shit out too, and they got to get some size in there because, like we saw it against not so much the size part, like you mentioned, Shy, but we saw it with Cleveland how they really couldn't score because Steph is the only one scoring. You know what I mean? We saw it with Minnesota in these 2 games. Like nobody's stepping up to be that second, third option, really. And they're kind of trying to. I don't know what they're trying to do there, honestly, but it's looking bad. And now they've lost 4 straight. 4 straight. They're 6-6. Like they look bad, man.
But you asked about the Draymond suspension. I don't know what would be a fair amount of games, honestly. But at the end of the day, like this is something that the Warriors are gonna have to lay. Like this is a bet that they made. I talked about it with y'all a few times, but they've continued to enable him, and it's like we've seen it's back to back games. He had the issue with Donovan Mitchell, ends up getting ejected. Obviously gets ejected today. Yesterday. Everybody makes the jokes about he wanted to get ejected because of Steph, blah blah blah. But it's like, bro, like ever since the Jordan Poole punch, it just seems like he's trying more and more and more and more, and and it's gonna be something that it continues to hurt the Warriors no matter what they try to say. Obviously, it worked when they were at the peak of their powers because Klay Thompson was great. They obviously got no disrespect, but they're probably if KD never comes, they're probably never winning that. They're not winning that 4th championship most likely. The team, who's to say that they would even stick together?
Yeah, they probably would have been broken up by now.
So it's like, there's things that happen and we can do the what ifs and whatnot. But at this point, like you're not that same team. So like some of that stuff is like, you got to start locking in. And it's just like, he came out and said like, how you going to tell me how to be me, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, bro, we're not trying to tell you to change like in turn, but like some of the dumb shit is like, you don't need to do that, bro. Like it's so unnecessary, especially when your team asks.
I'm saying No, you're right though, man. It's getting real old, and it's like, dude, like, come on now, you too old for this shit. Like, I know what you're trying to do at times, trying to get in people's heads, trying to get your teammates kind of pumped up and shit. But like the way you're going about it, man, this shit ain't it. This shit ain't it. You ain't gotta do this like that. That chokeout was vicious though. Like that was like. Bro,
man, I'm telling you, I'm looking. You can see it in here. He like, I want to choke you. I'm trying to hurt this man, bro. I don't care what nobody says. You can't
That
tell
shit
me he
was
couldn't have
crazy.
just pulled him off of him. And even you grabbed him, like you said, Cash, you locking up. Like, you like, nah, come here. Nah, come here. Like,
He locked that shit. You locked that shit. You trying to, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, the
But
Warriors they got a problem on their hands, but they been had a problem on their hands. So,
but yeah, it's like, bro, Draymond, I get it. You want to be the bad boy enforcer, whatever, but you still got to be the leader of your team or something. Like you said, you got Steph, but then Clay, after his injury, he hasn't been the same. We don't. I mean, from what we can tell, he might not ever be the same again. Like, you gotta lead. Like, this your
and
example of leadership. You gonna leave
kind of
your
example is
organization in
that,
turmoil at
like,
this point.
and you talked about Clay not being the same, but the organization just as a whole. Because right now we haven't talked much about their GM leaving. Obviously, he's with
yeah,
ESPN now, and that was something that was kind of rumored before it happened. It wasn't a super surprise,
Right.
but how did last year could have changed a lot, man, because we're seeing that Jordan Poole is not. We could have predicted it, but because of how last year went, but obviously Jordan Poole is not playing the same. I'm sure he still has some confidence to work back because I'm sure them dudes is talking crazy on the court. Like, bro, we saw live that you got slept by your own teammate. I ain't not trying to be disrespectful,
That
but
shit
like at
tough.
the end of the day, like people are saying that, and like obviously he's got his own team. They haven't been playing too well. And in the Warriors, obviously, last year had a terrible end to the season. This year, they kind of, most people would say it was a desperate move to go get Chris Paul. And as eventually, it's looking like it's probably not going to be, work to like how they would like. That's why I was kind of saying like I would have gotten rid of Draymond. Honestly, no disrespect to Draymond, he's an all-time great, all-time great Warrior as well. But I don't know. I just would have.
But that make you question, like,
enable them.
they might not be a good organization to develop people. I mean,
Maybe.
for real. Because you
But at the
you
same
just got rid
time,
of
like,
Poole, you got rid of Wiseman,
yeah,
and it's like you
Kuminga's
rather keep
alright.
the core that you had, knowing that their talents are diminishing. Like, what are you accomplishing? You getting Chris Paul? Yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's an all time great, but his talents aren't as good as it used to be. So it's like, what direction are you really trying to go?
that's the thing about, like, and you said that desperate move for Chris Paul. Like, Draymond put them in this position, bro. If you didn't do that, you could have saved Jordan Poole, not to keep him for the rest of your franchise, but you could have traded him for something better than Chris Paul, say Zach LaVine. I know they're in the talks to get Zach LaVine now a little bit, but they don't have the package for it. They would have had that with Jordan Poole and some other pieces, but they could not go into the season with Jordan Poole and Draymond on the same roster. That's why they had to make that move, and it was desperate. And it's tough because, like, you could tell, like, Steph is, he's not the one to kind of speak up about this shit. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, he sits back, kind of watches Draymond do his shit, and he's so used to it. And I mean, it's been a decade of you just sitting back doing this shit, so he's not going to change. But they got a problem in their hands, and I mean, it's something that's not going to be fixed easily. They should have got rid of Draymond. I do agree with you, but where do you go from here, too? I mean, you don't have many options. And then Clay's looking for a contract.
And we're talking about it like it's dire, but it's very
dire.
early.
Don't
very early,
it's
but
dire.
it's something. It's just something to be pay attention to, and
right.
basically we are predicting how it's going to go. It's probably going to end bad, but looking at another desperate team, the LA Clippers. It's 6 straight losses at this point, and
speak up, Cass.
Is help coming with Daniel Tice? I'm not sure, but it's looking ugly.
Daniel Tice, your boy, Chris. That's your boy.
And
he can defend and stretch the floor a little bit.
If I was Tice, I would try to go to the Warriors if I was him. But I mean, I don't know about that. But it's
a little rough.
It's
a little rough. So I mean, look, six straight losses, 5 with James Harden in the lineup, but 6 straight since you traded off your wing depth. You traded 4 power forwards to get James Harden and PJ Tucker back. PJ Tucker's a shell of himself. I mean, he's 38. You can't really expect too much from him, but you are playing him big minutes because he is your backup 5 right now. size is the issue with this team. And it is kind of like, and of course they said today in national news, kind of like a infatuation with small ball. You know what I mean? That's what they ran last night against Jokic, which obviously did not work.
Worked for like one play.
It worked for like one play. Of course, you're spacing the floor, which is cool. But
with a bunch
he's
of
coming down. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like you coming down and what'd you say?
With a bunch of niggas that's broke.
I mean, yeah, most of them were down the stretch, especially. And then like Jokic is just tearing them apart. You hit PG on him. He's like PG not even there. Kawhi is trying, but Kawhi ain't got the juice, and he's not long enough. James was trying. Like you missing Mason Plumlee, you're getting Daniel Tice, but it's still more to this team that's not looking good. So. And we talked about it too, that Russ should come off the bench. Well, that's your opinion, that Russ should come off the bench. We talked about it before the season even started. With this trade was rumored. Something has to happen because this shit is not looking good. You can't keep rolling this shit out.
They already said that Russ did. And the thing about it is, it was just kind of, it's to me, and I don't want to talk about something else with the Clippers on mine after this, but this has been the rumor for months. We all knew that this was going to happen
as soon as he opted in July.
And there seems like there was no plan. I know, honestly, obviously you don't want to. I don't know how conversations are going where you're like, hey, we might get James Harden, so you might come off the bench. But like they came out and said that Russ isn't coming off the bench, and it seems like it's like maybe I don't know if he's maybe taking a stance on that, or like he wants to start, or because he's been there, blah blah blah. But it's like you had no plan, and it's just not looking good. It's not looking good. And we said it, or I said it earlier. It was a team that was desperate, and I was kind of jumping the gun on it. But ultimately, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a team that made a desperation move. And at this point, what do you do? And I've been saying that they should go ahead and I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. We'll see how the next up until Christmas. But I mean, PG might have to go ahead and get up out of there, my boy.
So of course, he's been in talks. I mean. Not actual talks, but like fan talk as far as like what do you do next? And it's people talking about trading Russ. I saw like at the game last night. I was right there behind the bench.
Yeah, we know.
So I was there when Russ got.
You go ahead tell the folks at home what you was doing. What was your
seat number? He was right on the court, huh?
I was right there behind.
You handed Russ his towel.
No, but like you could see like that shit, and I watched every single game that Russ is playing. You know me. You can see it in his face, like when he gets subbed out, he really comes to the end of the bench, and he was like literally looking like just mad as fuck. And I'm like, dude, like, what did you expect? When like, come on, like you knew this was going to happen. You had to know this was going to happen. You cannot be. Maybe he is that delusion. I don't know, but you had to know this is going to happen. Like that, you were going to get pushed back. James, the ball handler. That's what you were doing.
That's what it's been your whole career with him. That's what it's been your whole career.
So it's like, dude, like, okay, y'all played together in Houston, but y'all were the two best players on the team. Y'all have two people on the team that are better than both of y'all right now. Like, so it's a whole different dynamic. He's sitting there sulking and shit, and you could tell like every now and then he was talking to the young guys a little bit, but he was mad about getting benched. And to his credit, they went on a 17-5 run last night with him on the bench as soon as he got subbed out in the end of that fourth quarter, which you kind of judge decisions if you're Ty Lue, like who to close with. But it looks ugly, man, and it looks worse than I thought. It looks way worse than I thought it would be through these first 6 games. But it is early. I don't know what they're gonna do, and
it's a lot of personalities that could, obviously we're not in the locker room, so we're gonna say these exaggerative words such as explode. But I mean, it's a lot. I mean, Bones Highland, we've already seen he's
out of rotation now.
That's what it was reported, and he came out and said cap, and he obviously had his issues with Jamal Murray in Denver. So
the same situation in Denver.
Same situation,
like literally.
And then Daniel Tice coming in puts another person out of the rotation, and it's a lot of teams. It's like they got a lot of talent. They stocked a lot of talent, but stocking a lot of talent doesn't mean that ultimately that you don't have the right pieces.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me, speaking of the right pieces, and I don't want to continue to pile on the current Clippers just because obviously it's still early on, but we're going to see. But the former Clippers keep keep coming in the news talking about this damn bubble.
Let's talk
I
about
don't
that.
get the fast. I don't mean cut you off. I just don't understand the fascination of talking about what. I mean, what difference is it gonna make? Like you coming out saying that you didn't play good, you didn't want to. What is that doing? What is that doing for you?
I
It's
think it
crazy
makes it
because
worse. That's the thing.
it pops up out of nowhere. Like Lou Williams was on 2 different podcasts this week
talking about it.
Like what? Like dude, you know what I mean? Like why are you bringing this shit back up? So now it's in the news. So for our listeners, Lou Williams came out and said that they took the foot off the gas when they were in the bubble because they heard rumors that the championship in the bubble wouldn't be as respected. Which. No, I'm not even gonna go there.
But I mean, the thing is, at the time, maybe we joke about it, calling it.
We do joke about it. That's what I was gonna say.
But right now, I mean, at this very second, nobody's thinking about that season.
It's still a ship, though.
Nobody's thinking about, oh, well, they did win, but that shit was nobody care, bro. They won, whatever.
The thing about it at this point, go ahead.
I was just about to say, like you said, Shai, you making it worse on yourself by talking about it, saying we didn't take. Like what?
Because that's the thing that I want to touch on. Because it's at this point we've heard enough people talk about the bubble where they said that mentally it was tough. So at that point, off rip, we can't just sit here and like it was a tough championship to win. Period. Like I don't care what anybody says. The funny thing about the Lakers were the best team in the league from the jump. They were the best team in the league when the season ended. They were the best team in the league at the end of the season.
They were dominant that season, man. That was a built team.
And then they obviously went into the next season and were the best team in the league until everybody started getting hurt.
Right.
This year, the past year, everybody still got hurt, and then they ended up being freaking going to the championship game. They are just better than the Clippers. Like, it's okay. And the thing about it is, it's like mentally, it's like if you couldn't, that's part of winning a championship. If you guys aren't there mentally, you are never going to win a championship, period. And we see that like continuously with this team. Obviously with this iteration of Paul George and Kawhi. Like, no disrespect, but like, it's just, they just don't have the championship formula, unfortunately. It's okay. It's okay.
It happens. It is what it is.
And I don't understand why he keeps talking about it, but it just, it don't even make sense because
3 years ago, man. Come on, bro. Like
the thing about in my head, I'm like, shit. If y'all would have beat the Lakers and would have seen the Miami Heat, what the fuck make you think that Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler wouldn't have did psychological warfare on y'all boys and y'all would have been out there? Like, what you mean?
They gotta hang that shit up though. Man, we don't need to hear about that shit no more. I mean, it is big because they did blow that 3-1 lead to Denver, and that is a big part of their history. But no need to talk about this shit anymore. But I mean, this whole 5-year stretch for Kawhi and PG, man. Like I remember when this shit first went down. We all remember with this shit. Like we were like, oh shit. I mean, they had depth. They had at the time they had Doc there.
Defense in the world.
Yeah, I mean that's what the talk was.
Two-way players in.
So going 5 years to the future now, where we are, it's like you can't do nothing but shake your head from everybody involved. You can't do nothing but shake your damn head and be like, yo, we fucked that up. But no need to dwell on it. Keep moving on.
No need to say, oh, the what if. The what if is
the what if.
So get over it.
What if is it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah.
So at this point, just let it go. Like I don't know.
Now that I'm thinking about it, the two teams that was your biggest competition
are still your biggest competition. Yeah,
they won championships since then. Like
yeah.
Like the Nuggets are clearly like, and y'all can't do that with the Nuggets. We just seen it. Y'all can't do that with the Nuggets. So like, it's
let's move to the East though. Let's talk about Dame and how rough the Bucks look compared to what our expectations. Well, I know actually, Shai, you kind of had the feeling that it wouldn't beat it. All roses and shit, and that's what it is. It's rough, man. I mean, you got the new coach, you got the Terry Stotts, situation that happened right before the season started,
which is weird,
very weird, very odd. The defense looks very suspect, and then Damian Lillard does not help. It's not all on Damian Lillard, but he doesn't help that situation at all. Just an undersized guard. So I mean, it's. The Bucks, they're not terrible. They're still winning games. You still have Giannis, who had a fucking
Dominating.
crazy ass game the other day when he scored. I don't know what he scored, 45, whatever it was, just dominated. But it's still a lot of question mark with this team as far as like how good they're going to. And you see the Sixers are rolling right now. You know what I mean? It's like
Shout out to Reese Maxey.
yeah,
Drop
man.
50.
50. Oh my gosh, he's balling.
Yeah, he is, and it's another bad look for James Harden. And the Sixers continue to ball. And the East has been I mean, both sides have been kind of close.
Yeah. Celtics look good.
Celtics look
No,
good
I'm
as
saying
well.
Tyrese Maxey currently getting locked up, but go ahead.
Oh my God!
Oh, y'all playing right now? Yeah, y'all playing right now.
You know, the Pacers, Pacers look good, very good offensively. The Cavs probably the biggest disappointment thus far in the East. Outside, maybe I don't want to say Milwaukee still has a good enough record, but you know, thus far the Cavs have had some tough games. You know, they've had a tough schedule to start, and still with Okoro being out, they're kind of the biggest disappointment in the East so far. But outside of that, you know, Miami, we kind of said that they were going to be, you know, trash, and you know, right now, looking out, they're three in the standings.
Yeah,
you know, third in the conference. So it's been a good season thus far.
It's been interesting.
I'd say for the Bucks, I think I didn't take in consideration that, you know, they do have a good new coach. I was just thinking about as far as the Dame and Giannis fit. I thought it would fit much seamlessly than any other team that made a move. But you also got to take in consideration the coaching, and I think that's kind of where they're telling off just a tad bit. But you know, it's not extreme. It ain't like they under 500. You know,
it's still 6-4. They whooping ass right now, so they about to be 7-4. But it's still like you wanted to see a little bit more, but it's really early. So I mean, you can't expect too much.
I guess it's just the aspect of the domination of Dame and Greek ain't really was formulating right now.
Yeah,
as a tandem.
But damn, yeah, the Pacers are fucking balling, man. Tyrese Halliburton, like the last 2 games, you got 32 assists, 0 turnovers, 50-something points.
Crazy.
And that's why I've mentioned it a couple times, but that, you know, I always like those guys when they come back from USA and they make the jump. We're seeing it with Ant. We're seeing it with Tyrese Halliburton.
Not really seeing it with AR though, huh, Chris?
Chris Hayden, but AR, you know, he's been playing better as a season.
2 games, man. Speak up on the Lakers other games he played.
The Lakers, I mean, he played a lot of basketball this summer, man. He gotta get his legs under him down. Like,
you're right. My bad, bro. My bad.
And then I think, I mean, also it was just a fit with Russ, because we also see D'Angelo Russell has been playing better. And you know, I think that they would prefer to probably start Austin Reeves, but they know that mentally they couldn't bring D'Angelo Russell off the bench.
You lose him.
But he's been playing much better. You know, that was probably one of the, out of everybody last year, that was probably the biggest disappointment, I should say, from Lakers fans as far as the playoff run. It's like, D'Lo's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Get rid of D'Lo. But I mean, he's been doing pretty good this year. And I would say that that's probably the main reason why y'all got to let him start. Put him off the bench for AR, that'd probably be very detrimental.
And I'm glad that you went there with the trade D'Lo, because before we sign off, I do want to ask y'all. We saw the rumors about Zach LaVine sticking in the East. Where do y'all think? Do y'all think that Zach LaVine gets traded? Obviously, I saw some stuff. I don't know if you guys saw it. They talked about how he still kind of hasn't gotten over the benching with a couple years ago that against the Magic. He came out. They're getting smacked right now by the Magic, ironically. And you know, we saw his comments, and he was kind of saying that it's not the right time to talk about a trade and this and that. And do you guys think that he ultimately gets traded, and where are you guys predicting if so?
Before the season, I would have thought that this would happen more towards the trade deadline. But the steam, you know, where there's, you know, smoke, there's fire. You know, when this shit starts picking up from like reputable sources too, this shit might happen quickly. This shit might happen like within the next month. You know what I mean? And at the same time, and you're kind of seeing it with the James Harden situation too a little bit. Like, you kind of want to do this shit quicker than later if you're getting a guy that will change, the outlook of your team, and that's what you're getting is Zach LaVine. I mean, he will be a big piece to whatever team trades for him. I think he does end up getting traded. Where? I mean, of course, Lakers are in discussion. Of course, they always throw the Miami Heat in discussion. What's some other teams they talked about?
Warriors,
Sixers, Warriors.
Sixers came out, or they basically, I guess, floated that was not going to be a thing, and I think that's the right decision.
Yeah,
with Therese, how he's playing
for real. So I would
like for him to see on.
Go ahead.
I don't see how it happened. I would like to see him on the Pacers, though, for real.
Pacers would be interesting.
But they would probably have to get rid of like Buddy Hield or something like that.
Depends on what they give.
I think
Buddy and Ben.
think he would do great with them. I think that'll put them in a level where it's like, okay, you're not gonna obviously be the favorite, but I feel like they can really compete at that point.
It's tough because if you're Chicago, do you want to trade him to a division? Keep him in, not just in conference, but also in your division.
Nah, that is facts, though.
That's something to think about there. But I mean, I think the fit wouldn't be terrible there. I mean, I of course would like out of all of them, I would like to see him on the Lakers. But it's already been smart. They were at the Kentucky game.
With
he was sitting next to Rich Paul. You know how that shit go. He talked about this shit. Was it this past off season or off season before that? Talking about playing with, he would love to play with Bron and a dominant big or something like that. So it's been a lot of talk, and it's probably gonna happen.
It might happen. I would like to see him with honestly, Toronto would be an interesting spot for him.
He'll have the keys.
Toronto would be him and Scotty. And if depending on if they keep Siakam or not, that would be interesting. And then, I kind of want to see him with the Lakers too. I think that's what I think D'Angelo Russell has been playing well, so it might not be wise to fuck up the chemistry at this point. But you could. I don't think that Austin Reeves would mind. You could bring him back in the starting lineup. If you do
long
trade
term
Russell
too. I think if you already hitched your wagon to AD, Zach LaVine is they're on the same. You know what I mean? So
and that lets you get whatever LeBron decides to do. He wants to stay, he can stay.
If he leaves, then you still you're all right. You know what I mean? You're not. You won't be a contender off the bat. Depends on how AD plays.
You never know because
depends on how AD plays. I mean,
Depending on how AD plays, then you still have Reeves. You still have Rui, which I don't think they should include him in the trade because I saw somebody say everybody saying the Lakers got to get rid of all these role players and James Harden and all these niggas going for pennies. He's like, nah, bro, nah. So I'm saying the same thing. Nah, it ain't gonna be all this Rui and Gabe and first round picks and none of that shit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be D'Angelo Russell and
some other a couple biscuits in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what it should be.
Picks.
That's what it should be. But I don't think Zach plays with Chicago this season. I don't think that.
If they do end up firing, the coach or something, and I'd be interested. Maybe he wants to stay, and then DeMar. That's always something to consider as well because DeMar is getting older. He's a little bit obviously more seasoned than Zach LaVine. He might be more inclined to.
And we know he'll come back to LA.
Yeah.
Fact. I was just about to say that his stomping ground. He'll go back.
Especially with all the shit going on with the Clippers. Like, hey, maybe DeMar for
he with that gang shit.
Relax.
What's crazy though? Before how are you? And this is completely off topic from what we just talked about, but I do want to bring it up before we go. How do you feel right now if you're Ja Morant? You know what I mean? Your season is gonna be done by the time you get back. It's a wrap. You know what I mean? That's what you cost your team with your off season antics. And I know
Big Wolf.
The suspension was, of course, controversial as far as the length of it, and actually what happened. But they'll be lucky to have 5 wins by the time he gets back after his 25 games suspension.
It's unfortunate, but it's kind of it's a humbling thing, honestly. It's this is the things. This is what you cost your franchise. This is what you cost yourself. You have a good team, but on paper, it's a good roster. And at this point, they're struggling. They're trying to do what they can to fight, and they're getting smacked, except against the Clippers. But
that's true. That's true.
And it's tough. It's a tough look for him, and it should be a humbling thing for him. And hopefully he can come in and put his stamp on the season. Hopefully get them into the play-in or something, and that would be a good
tall
story.
Task. It would be a tall task. It would be a good story though. It would be a great story.
Yeah. But with that being said, another week, crazy week in the NFL, crazy couple days in the NBA as well. We'll be back with y'all next week. We got some big games. The Super Bowl rematch, Chris. It's going to be the last game. Fresh on the mind. Fresh on the mind when we come in on Wednesday, man. We'll catch y'all next week and appreciate y'all for listening.
Yes, sir.